So I must say this before we even get started. You know, I've been associated with BMW since 1996, when we hosted at Fan Court the very first BMW International Championship outside Europe. And I'm proud to say that I've been associated for a long, long time. But tonight is just different. Of all the tournaments we've done, and all the times that I've had the pleasure of being with you, and to Peter and Belinda as our ultimate host tonight with BMW, and the people behind the scenes, I think this little thing here at the Gary Player Country Club at Sun City with you must go on for the next 60 years. Let's not move this. Let's just keep it here. It's been very special. So here's how we begin. I would like you to share a little talent that many people don't know you have. The sacred ibis, who approached us tonight in the tune of about 100. I know that you called them here, didn't you?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm talking about your ability to call birds to the occasion.
I certainly, I love birds, and I wish I knew more about it, because I strive for education every day of my life. But you know, you talk about that. I'm on my farm, and there are a bunch of Americans there, and I said, guys, listen, what would you do if I could get a turtle dove to come and sit on the veranda? The first guy says, I'll give you $100,000. This guy starts stuttering. I said, I don't want you to. So the next night, we're sitting in the boma. And I've got a dry tree. I said, Joe, what would you give me if I can get an owl to come out of the mountain and sit in the tree? I'll give you $1 million, he says. I'll hold it. I'll hold it for you. I'm not that old. That Viagra, he says, a big help. I took Viagra and got a stiff neck. But anyway, so this owl came and sat there, and he also started stuttering. And I mean, you know, birds, if you look at your phone and you see what's happening, communication with birds and animals. Now, the other day, this man had elephants in Iraq. With the war, he went over there, got a boat, brought them back, put them in their natural environment, looked after them, loved them. They put their trunks around him, they pulled him close. He dies, they're 30 miles away. I've got it on my phone right now, Jeff. Yep. His elephant walked 30 miles, walk around his house 2 days, and go back. So we will see things in the future, extrasensory perception. We will sit like this. You won't have a phone like this. You'll just talk to my daughter in America, like we're sitting here now. We're going to see things. We haven't started. The only thing I got a great kick out of is Peter tonight with electrical cars. We don't even have electric in our house.
That's the other problem.
But he's too clever for us, anyways.
All right, so here we go. My little question here tonight begins with something that may be a little bit different, and the fact you've actually screwed this up properly by coming with this brilliant blue blazer, white shirt, white pants, because as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, you were wearing black. And I thought maybe you'd had a real strong connection with Johnny Cash.
Very much so. And I love country music because it's always got a wonderful message for you. But I go to America, and, you know, my father had to leave school at Stanton 6 to support all the family because the parents and everybody died. And the only place he could get a job is at a gold mine. So he works at the gold mine for 30 years. He speaks 3 black languages fluently, Portuguese, English, and Afrikaans. What would have happened if he had an education? And I said, Dad, you know, I'm going to be the best golfer in the world. He says, what? Because he loved golf. He was a Turnican. He says, well, I'm not going to dissuade you. But he says, if you believe that, you've got to have a brand. I said, what the hell is a brand? He says, I don't know what it is for you, but you decide. So I go to America, and I meet the Have Gun Will Travel. Caledon, dressed in black, lovely cowboy hat, silver holsters. And he meets people, and it appealed to me because I love people. You see, we talk about physical fitness. There's also a thing called social fitness, what is so enjoyable about our day here? Is playing every guy and every woman is different. And I love them all, man. You know, unfortunately, I can't find a damn girlfriend. That's so bad. But anyway, the thing is that I see this guy dressed in black and he meets people. He says, if I can help you, gives him a card, call me. And I love that. And I said, wait, I'm from Black Africa. I'm going to wear black. It made me a lot of money.
Yeah.
My dad was smart.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe you don't know that story, but that's how I first saw him as a young child playing golf. And what you don't realize is that I started watching Gary Player when I was 5 years old. In 1961, he won the Masters. He beat Arnold Palmer, the first international golfer to win the Masters in the United States. And I must tell you, I was there. And this is 15 years before you had television.
Right?
Don't mind me, how did they even follow you in South Africa?
I tell you what I did. I had a film. They had these big rolls in a tin. And so I bought 10 of those, and I came to South Africa, and I hired a man to go around South Africa to all the different clubs and show them the Masters.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, let me go on to now a question that has just bugged me forever. Leaving me out of this, of course. Who would be your four-ball of choice?
Well, number one, Winston Churchill.
Well,
You know, if you look at September 11 in America, it was a terrible, terrible time. Women jumping, and I went up I had a breakfast date with Obama, Clinton, and George Bush. And I went up to the top of the building, which was so high that when you looked down, honestly, the people looked that size. But the first thing I did, Jeff, as I got in the elevator, I walked straight to the building where that plane came in. I stood there, and I was mesmerized. And then the next day I had a meeting with a company, and this man says, you know, Gary, I saw these women jumping down and men jumping down. You know, you can't imagine things that happen in the world, you know. Unfortunately, time is the greatest veterinarian, and you forget things, not entirely, but you think of the things that have occurred in our life. It's quite scary, isn't it? Quite scary. But I got off the point. What's the question?
Winston Churchill is
Winston
player
Churchill.
number 2.
Right. Winston Churchill, number one. Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, because Singapore was annexed by the Japanese, and they went through hell. And he built a country with law and order. A man who's a drug peddler, he said, you know, and I met his brother, he said, my brother said, we'd rather kill that man than that man killing 1,000 people. And that makes such sense to me. And I've always believed that a drug peddler or a man who kidnaps a child, which is happening in South Africa, there should be an immediate death penalty for those people. Imagine your child you kidnapped. So Lee Kuan Yew would be the other one. Nelson Mandela, I put him there because we all know what happened to him in his life. And I spent 3 years with him. We raised 20 million plus minus for young black children. And every time I was with him, I cried because I'm a hell of a crybaby. I laugh all day, but I'm also a crybaby. And, you know, this man was so incredible. The things that he did and the stories that he told me about were quite remarkable. So I put him in there. And the fourth, Mother Teresa, who gave her life, not for money, but gave her life for people. And that was absolutely amazing. Of course, there are a lot of other great people that I've met in my life. I've been very lucky to have traveled more miles than any human being ever. Been very blessed to do that as a poor kid, to be blessed through this great game of golf. Man, what a game this is. And you never stop learning. And it's raised more money. It's raised twice as much money for charity as any other two sports together. The PGA of America on their fourth billion. So, I mean, in golfers, Arnold Palmer had a hotel. A hospital. Jack Nicklaus, hospital. This guy, this guy, that. It's fantastic, isn't it?
And in case you weren't paying attention, he's just played a 5-ball. But that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah, who's counting?
You can play a gangster if you like. There's a couple other points that I'd like to make. And one of the points is we all know about fitness. We all know about what's happening with golf today. We all know that there are very few Shane Lowry's that can be as good as they are and be as big as he is and drink beer the way he likes to do. But to me, the people in this room today are playing golf through business. They don't have the time. They may not have the time. A lot of them are very fit, but they may not have the time to practice and play the way you have your whole life. And yet they love this game. If you could give everybody in this room a bit of advice on how to approach their golf, maybe not the same way, obviously not the same way you did, but if they could get the most pleasure out of their golf, how would you give them that advice?
Well, first of all, I met a lady here now in my room here today, is from Botswana. And unfortunately, yesterday she was stopped at the border. They were throwing rocks at cars on our side. So she had to divert and missed the clinic and things like that. And she came out here and she said, I didn't play well today, but I had a wonderful day. And first of all, I said the other day in our clinic, the words that's prevalent in my life is gratitude. I say a prayer 5 times a day. And when I sat down at that table tonight, the first thing I said, thank you to the people who did this for us. Thank you. It's just something that when you suffered a lot, that you understand people and you have appreciation in your heart. So I do get a little bit off the track with questions. I've heard a bit, come back to the question.
I think you
Have a
were
good old time.
going to tell these people how
Oh, how
to
to
enjoy
enjoy-
golf without being as fit
Correct.
as
So
you.
this lady, she had a wonderful day today. So what do you come here for? I've got a grandson who's a lawyer who does branding for my company in America. He had so much talent, hits the ball a mile, plays well, but he's got a terrible temperament. And I tell people they hit a bad shot. Tiger Woods, I watched him. He's the best golfer that ever lived, but he's not, because he doesn't have the record to beat it, to do it. But I saw him play time after time, 6 terrible shots. I mean, right in the bush. And he never changed the look on his face, and he shot 66. So golf is a game of hitting bad shots. You can't avoid it. So what the hell? Enjoy it. And people talk about pressure, about stress. As I said to the guys today, there's nobody in the world that can live without stress. I love stress. And listen, I had 72 years of it. You know what I'm talking about. When you're putting for $10 million from 6 feet week after week, that's stress. Changes the color of your underpants very quickly. You know what I mean? So, but you've got to learn that you've got to live with stress. Nobody can live without it. It's impossible. And realize it and accept the challenge and do something about it in the way you handle it. It's amazing what you can train your mind to do. We're in our infancy. And these people have got to come out and say, man, I know one thing. When we teed off on that tee today, how many people in the world will never ever do that? And people that are in wars and don't have food and don't have a parent and don't have a grandparent and don't have clothes and have a brick as a pillow. And children in India, some of the children have been blinded, arms broken to get a couple of grams. I mean, and you just put things in perspective. You just got to go out there and enjoy it. And man, I tell you, that's what I love today. And I was pulling the legs about the way they played. But these guys played like crazy. Off their handicap. If a lady's a 20 handicap here today, she can beat Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, you have to give her 30 shots and she's going to beat him.
I think it's great. It's a great answer.
Yeah.
I think the point I was trying to make, and what you've answered so well, is that you people are great business people. Your successes in life, and yet you come and play golf, and you let the bad shot break you down.
Yes.
And you should be coming off the golf course at the end of the day with a great drive and a nice putt and a good bunker shot, and call it a day. And you should approach every shot that you play with a smile.
Absolutely. If you're a 16 handicapper, you got to hit 16 bad shots. But they don't want to hit one bad one, Jim. They don't want to hit one bad one.
And I watched Joel on the first tee today, and I watched everybody just stand there going, wah, 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 wah. But there were some great golfers.
But the one lady I'm going to kick out of today, I told them yesterday, and again it happened today on the 3rd hole, and she missed the ball 3 times. She says, hell, this is a tough course. I really love that. I said, well, I don't know who the hell designed it.
That's the line of the night. All right. Now, the last year, and I know that you lost the love of your life, but the last year, you've rededicated yourself to this country. Every time I looked up, you were at Durban Country Club, you were at Fancourt, you were at the smallest club here, you were at the smallest club there. You're back in South Africa, really seeing the people again and sharing your life story. And I think that's fantastic. What prompted you to do that?
Tiff, you know, I think the greatest gift bestowed upon man or woman is suffering. And because what follows suffering is joy. If you can have the perseverance and the patience and the education to be taught it. And so my mother died when I was 9. I adored my mother. My brother went to war at 17, Jim. Left high school, St. John's. Later became the world's leading conservationist. My sister went to boarding school. My father was 8,000 feet underground. I traveled to King Edward School, which saved my life. An hour and a half. Stayed at school to be occupied with sports, which I excelled in. Came back home in Boyson's. Nobody in that house. 9 years old. Get in this dark house. Cooked a little bit of marog and a little bit of spinach. Had to make my bed. Get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to school. And I lay in bed every night of my life, crying, wishing I was dead. And that's why I became a world champion.
You know, you've traveled the world, but you've gone through, and we all know the story of the dark days and apartheid and everything else. But I asked you, and I'm going to ask you again, what do you consider sanctuary? What's sanctuary for you?
Sanctuary was my wife. You know, I've got pictures of it all in my room, even in my toilet. When I go for a pee every day, I look at her. And I give her hell. I say, damn it all, why did you have to leave me now? And I said, you know, I'm in the twilight of my life. And I said, you know, it won't be long before I'm dead. If you find another man there, I'm going to kill him. But that was my sanctuary because, you know, to have somebody to love. And I'm a great toucher, you know. And I'm a great hugger and a kisser. And, oh, man, you know, it's tough, man. I tell you, I put my hand out every night and say, just touch it a little bit. I've got this beautiful bed in my house, and it'll be great. Just even put a bit of window over it. She never does. And I mean, it's tough, man. But, you know, I was accustomed to toughness. My whole life has been adversity. So I've accepted this. And I've never been more happy in my life. Business is good. I love people. I'm traveling, but I'm healthy.
Yeah, but listen, let me interrupt you. Let's get straight here. She's gone.
She's gone. That's right.
Why are you now coming after my wife?
Because it's called Show Me the Money, honey. I want to get some of that money of yours. But you know, everybody in this room's got somebody with death in their family. Everybody in this room. And if you have it now, you will have it. It's part of life. It's part of life. And you can either feel sorry for yourself, or you can be, I had a feast, 72 years with the same woman. I left the table having had a feast, of which I'm thankful for. But honest to goodness, man, there's so many things. If you really make a comparison, if you take the trouble, you know, to realize what's happening in the world, how lucky you are, how can you feel sorry for yourself now? And that's the thing about golf. If you want to be a champion, you've got to, I have 100 young guys. Today I had 2 American boys sending me an email. How did you become a champion? What do you do? And I said, you know, it's called it. It's indefinable. Nobody knows what it is. I wish I could help you. I saw players that were terrible. I saw Tom Weiskopf, who was better than Nicholas, only won 2 majors. I've seen guys who could really play. Guy Rory McIlroy, best swing in the world by a mile. Hasn't won a major since 2014. 8 years. Now he might suddenly start doing it. So, you know, that little thing called it is so fascinating. And I have a very scientific friend. And he is a great reader. And I'm trying to think of what made me win more tournaments than anybody in the world. I'm small, I'm traveling, I'm playing in their countries with time changes away from my family. And yet I was able to do it. It's a gift. It's a gift. I don't take credit for my plane. It's a gift bestowed upon me. And my friend says, 20 years ago, we never knew what Wi-Fi was. But it's been there, but we didn't know. It only took 20 years ago after all these centuries. He says, now there's a Wi-Fi for your phone that cannot exist without it. He says, there's a Wi-Fi that certain human beings get more Wi-Fi. I've got me thinking,
Yeah, good, yeah.
It's interesting. You never know what we're finding out in the world. I mean, your grandchildren, what they're going to see. And they're going to fly from here to America in 1 hour, Go there for lunch.
Listen, we've only been allowed 10 minutes, so I would just like to make the 9th minute of our conversation touch on one more thing. You've traveled the world. Where's your favorite place outside of Africa?
Oh, outside of South Africa. Oh, America. America,
I didn't set that up.
no, America, is a land of Samaritans. They've helped the whole world. Yes, they've had some wars and done some things wrong. But really, I mean, they are such kind people. They have done so much for the world, financially, militarily, so much. But it's a terrible thing, Jim. My dad, who was no educated, said, son, remember loyalty. Don't ever expect loyalty. It's a gift. And Churchill said it most aptly. Why does he hate me? What have I done for him lately? And that applies to America. You help the whole world financially, even with religion, whatever it may be, education. Look at you go to Harvard today. 50% of the people are from India and Africa and all these countries. You're educated. Do you see China doing that? Do you see Russia doing that? Nowhere else does it. I mean, I could give you 50 things America do that other countries don't do. But I've got to tell you, talking about starting off as a young guy, I'm at the Jewish club. I love the Jewish people. They've got chutzpah. And this guy, Oscar Fruman, phoned me when I started the senior tour. He says, Gary, I phoned him up. I said, Oscar, how's your wife? He says, compared with whom? So I get talking to him. And he says, how much money are you playing for on the American tour? I said, Oscar, we're playing for tens of millions of dollars on the senior tour. Marvelous, he says. Remember what I told you when you were a little boy at Killarney? Money is not the most important thing in the world, but I still put it up there with oxygen.
Okay, we'll wrap this up. And
Let
I'm
him ask a
I
couple of
want,
questions.
yeah, I want to make one statement first. You're going to be the first guy to live to 150. We know that. And today, as I walked back in, he was on his way to the gym again. And I wore black, as I said. I only wear black because it's slimming. We now know why you wear black. But at what point do you think you will shoot half your age? Okay, I got that answer. The last thing I wanted to say in closing was that, and if you have questions, please ask them. But I wanted to say one thing about Mr. Player that means so much to me, and that's the word he just said was loyalty. And for him to stand up here and talk about BMW the way he does, I want to share something with you. I was actually at Blair Athol for this event a couple of years ago. We called you from your T. Remember the old driving range where you used it up the valley? I was with Paul Marks. And we call you and I say, I'm at Blair Athol, we're doing the BMW. And he says, oh, Jeff, BMW. Geez, I love my BMW. This is the greatest brand. And I'm like, Harry, we're just talking on the phone here, pal. So I know,
but there's a
I know you live it. I know you live it.
But there's a company, BMW. They want to make money. They employ 90,000 people, which just turns me on. But it's a company with love. And the greatest weapon that exists on the planet is the Almighty God's love. There's no weapon like it. No weapon like it. When I played golf in 1961, I played in the PGA, and I go to my grave having won 9 majors on both tours. But I really won 10 on the regular tour. They were demonstrating against South Africa, and I get to the top of my backswing, and there'd be a telephone book thrown on my back, and man, that hurts. And then I'd get over a putt, and they'd throw balls between my legs. And then I'd walk to the next tee, and the guy would say, look, ice in my eyes. And then they'd scream on my backswing. Then they'd have a little baby there, and they'd say, this can't happen in your country, And I mean, that was tough to play under those kind of conditions. But that's what I'm saying. And I lost my one. So I really won that. And so all these experiences you have in life, you've got to be so thankful for, because I think life is a process of learning, of having a desire. I mean, I look at athletes; they stand up. Well, I hit a 7-iron to this hole. That man, you've got to be able to project. You've got to be, if you want to represent companies, you've got to be able to dress well. You've got to be able to represent them, that they are proud of you. So many athletes today, they're offering Messi. Peter's telling me $350 million. Was that $350 million to play for Saudi Arabia? There's Ronaldo. It's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just money. It's when you represent a company, you've got to do it. It makes them proud of you. You know what I mean?
Listen, see, I know we could sit here and we could talk all night, and I'm in love with this conversation. Anybody want to ask a question?
They're all playing well.
That's good. That's good. I'd like to close by simply saying this, that, okay,
It's not a question. Mr. Player, I've had the privilege of knowing you for nearly 15 years. And you were my grandfather's hero.
Thank you.
And to have you here, I think is such a privilege for all of us.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say thank you. So thank you.
See, but we got the children.
I have a question. Mr. Player, are you still in room 817?
yes, that's my one. Ladies and gentlemen, the great thing is we're all driving BMWs now. I'm so pleased that you're driving an X5. I'm so pleased that she's driving a bigger car than you. And I'm so pleased that I'm about to be driving an X1. And I would like you all to see my new car.